Hitler's economic policies. Hitler came into power in 1933, and like most countries around the world, Germany was suffering from the effects of the Wall Street crash of 1929. At this point, over 6 million people were unemployed in Germany. That was, as you can see, nearly 26% of the total workforce. Just before the war starts, you can see it's dropped dramatically to only 300,000. This was better than any other country pretty much in the world, certainly in Europe, even democratic countries. And Hitler and the Nazis took full credit for this. So how were they able to do that? Well, they spent vast amounts of money on creating jobs. And the amount they spent on it doubled in the 6-year period between 33 and 39. One major project they did was road building, and you can see from the picture here that Hitler was, although he wasn't, liked to think he was the architect of this and was keen to be seen and photographed the starting of the building process. But these autobahns, or new motorways, just showed to people, first of all, they had to be built, so people got jobs building them, and it showed that Germany was progressing and doing a lot better. There were also jobs in forestry work, water projects, building new hospitals, schools, sports stadiums. German people looked at what was happening and thought Germany was getting a lot better under the Nazis. Another one of Hitler's promises, obviously, was to get rid of the Treaty of Versailles and the humiliating parts of it. So he very quickly did a huge rearmament and conscription building. This was against the Treaty of Versailles, and the army grew from 100,000, which it was allowed in 1933, to 1.4 million at the start of the war. Huge amounts of money were spent on military aircraft, tanks, infrastructure like that. Hitler was preparing himself for war, but was also going against the Treaty of Versailles. But that has a knock-on effect. Someone has to build the tanks, that's jobs. Somebody has to move the tanks, move the aeroplanes to where they're needed, that's jobs. So all the raw materials that had to be dug out the ground was jobs. Hitler was not just rearming, he was improving Germany massively. However, it's not quite as simple as that. These are Nazi figures that show the 6 million unemployed down to nearly nothing. A lot of groups weren't included. The Jews, for example, were just dismissed from their jobs. They're not counted in these figures. They were out of work, but they don't count in these figures. A lot of women who the Hitler and the Nazis wanted to be homemakers and mothers, they lost their jobs as well. They aren't counted in these figures. So be a little bit careful with these figures. Yes, it looks very good, and you could see how people thought he was doing well, but there are groups that are left out of these figures. Hitler wanted Germany to be self-sufficient. In other words, everything they needed and wanted was created by Germany. They couldn't afford to buy loads of things from outside. He didn't totally succeed with this. For example, German industry needed Swedish iron ore to make it work, and food quite often was imported. But under his 4-year plan, which he started in 1936, Germany was much more self-sufficient at the end of it than they were at the start. He achieved loads, but there was no way they could have become fully self-sufficient. No country can be fully self-sufficient. They haven't got the right raw materials. They haven't got enough of the raw materials. But it's important now, because Hitler realises if we're going to be self-sufficient, we need to go looking for the raw materials. We need to find the bits we need. And that's the living space, the Lebensraum idea, which means he starts looking east.